Marco is a big winner, beautiful winner from Florida.
The Florida senator sits on the Foreign Relations and Intelligence Committees, pushing a hardline agenda on China, Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba. Once one of the president-elect's fiercest rivals, who Trump mocked as Little Marco, he repeatedly joined the former president on the campaign trail this year.
We are tired of living in a country that is no longer dreaming big, but that is going to change tomorrow, and you're going to help change it.
As Donald Trump's cabinet choices come into focus, it's clear he's assembling a team dedicated to decisive action and aligned with the America First promises he championed during his campaign. Each appointment is a calculated move, from national security to immigration, shaping a vision that puts America's strength, sovereignty, and prosperity at the forefront.
The chief of staff position went first. I thought that was interesting because that would be a position that would help build the White House. And then he named two immigration people, Tom Homan as the border czar, which is an overused term. It essentially means it's not an official position. And then Stephen Miller, who worked with me in the White House in the first Trump administration as a deputy chief of staff. My guess is with a focus on immigration, because he's been central in formulating Trump policy since 2016 on immigration. The message there is that Trump will be spending a great deal of time and energy, as will his administration, on the immigration issue in the first 6 months of his presidency.
The appointments of Homan and Miller underscore Trump's commitment to his most ardent supporters by ensuring that immigration remains a defining feature of his administration. Homan's history with the zero-tolerance policy and Miller's staunch advocacy for strong borders set the stage for a renewed effort on deportations and stricter border enforcement.
I want everybody to be clear. It's going to be a targeted enforcement operation concentrating on criminals and national security threats first.
This targeted approach builds on earlier statements about the administration's plans. As Mulvaney explained,
I think by the appointment of Tom Homan, what you've seen is now an absolute commitment to at least part of this deportation plan. I think they said they were going to focus on, there's about 1 million people in this country, Holly, who have already been through our court system. They came seeking asylum. They went to court. They were denied asylum status and told they had to leave. But under the previous administration, they were allowed to essentially self-deport and just stayed in the country.
Beyond immigration, Trump's cabinet choices signal an emphasis on economic growth, particularly through deregulation. Lee Zeldin's appointment to the Environmental Protection Agency hints at a shift away from the green policies of the previous administration toward policies that support industry and economic freedom. However, as noted by some analysts, this shift may face certain limitations.
Keep in mind, Holly, things that have been passed into law here, as much of the green energy did as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, that's really hard to undo. Things that have been done in regulation that haven't risen to the level of legislation are easier to undo.
Despite these constraints, Zeldin's experience as a moderate yet firm Republican provides balance, allowing him to connect across the aisle while still pushing forward on Trump's deregulatory agenda.
Lee's a friend of mine, was a member of Congress from upstate New York. From Long Island, I think he was from. And he ran for governor a couple years back and was unsuccessful, but did much better than people realize. So he's a Trump Republican from a blue state. He and the president have gone along very well. I worked with Lee a good bit when I was the chief of staff. He is highly regarded in Republican circles as sort of a centrist Republican, sort of a moderate Republican, not in a bad sort of way to Republican minds, but sort of somebody that a lot of folks can work with. So,
while Zeldin's focus is on economic empowerment through deregulation, Trump is also setting the stage for a robust foreign policy team. Marco Rubio's selection as Secretary of State signals an assertive stance on international relations, especially regarding China, Iran, and other countries Trump has labeled as adversarial. Rubio's extensive experience on the Foreign Relations and Intelligence Committees makes him a natural fit, capable of leading a more confrontational and America-centered foreign policy.
The Florida senator sits on the Foreign Relations and Intelligence Committees, pushing a hardline agenda on China, Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba. Once one of the president-elect's fiercest rivals, who Trump mocked as Little Marco, he repeatedly joined the former president on the campaign trail this year.
Alongside Rubio is Representative Mike Waltz, Trump's choice for National Security Advisor. Known for his no-nonsense approach and deep military background, Waltz is a seasoned veteran and advisor who has served under top defense secretaries. His expertise is expected to bring a fresh perspective to national security, especially with his strong stance on China and NATO.
Waltz has been one of Trump's most visible surrogates during the 2024 campaign, helping spearhead military outreach, leading the Veterans for Trump coalition. The Florida congressman is the first retired Green Beret to serve in Congress and had previous administration experience as a policy advisor to former defense secretaries Donald Rumsfeld and Robert Gates.
Waltz's approach to national security isn't just about defending America's interests abroad. He also has strong views on reinforcing America's military infrastructure, making sure U.S. defense policies remain robust and ready for a changing global landscape. This combination of assertive foreign policy and domestic security forms a unified strategy within Trump's administration.
The former president also turning to a former House member, Lee Zeldin of New York, to lead the Environmental Protection Agency, already preparing to weaken protection against climate change.
Day one and the first 100 days, we have the opportunity to roll back regulations that are forcing businesses to be able to struggle.
Stefanik's placement at the UN signals a shift in America's approach to international alliances. She will likely embody Trump's vision of a more skeptical, results-oriented American presence in global organizations, challenging policies and agendas that do not directly serve American interests. This stance complements the assertive foreign policy approach championed by Rubio and Waltz, painting a clear picture of a cabinet that is unapologetic about putting America first.
But nothing says more about Trump's priorities than his second and third personnel picks, naming former Immigration and Customs Enforcement Chief Tom Homan as his border and deportation czar, and his former senior advisor Stephen Miller as Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy.
America is for Americans and Americans only.
By assembling a cabinet of this caliber, Trump is signaling a return to an America First approach with a clear focus on decisive policy changes in immigration, environmental deregulation, and assertive foreign diplomacy. The team he has built reflects his commitment to his supporters' most valued priorities. Trump's choices reveal not just a plan, but a vision for the future that resonates deeply with his base. Secure borders, economic strength, and an America that is respected, if not feared, on the world stage. With each of these choices, Trump reinforces his vision for a strong, independent America, led by seasoned and unapologetically patriotic figures who are ready to take bold steps. The cabinet is not just prepared to manage policies, it's ready to enact transformative changes that reflect the promises of his campaign. Will this team be the answer to America's challenges and usher in the prosperous era Trump envisions? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think this cabinet has what it takes to bring America back on top?